On December 15th, 1944, one of the great mysteries of the music world unfolded when Glenn Miller, the famous bandleader, vanished over the English Channel. Miller, whose unique swing music had dominated the American charts with hits like In the Mood and Chattanooga Choo Choo, was flying from England to France. He was to perform for troops recently involved in the liberation of Paris. Glenn Miller's role during the war was pivotal in boosting the morale of soldiers. After achieving immense fame as a bandleader, he left behind his career to join the U.S. Army Air Forces, where he served as a major. He led the Army Air Force Band, entertaining troops in England and participating in propaganda efforts against the Axis. By 1944, Miller had performed hundreds of concerts for the Allied forces, becoming an icon not just for his music, but also for his contributions to morale. On the day of his disappearance, Miller boarded a UC-64A Norseman aircraft in Bedfordshire, England. The weather was poor, with dense fog and freezing temperatures, which likely contributed to the incident. Some researchers believe that ice buildup in the engine caused the plane to crash into the channel. This theory is supported by historical records showing that planes like the Norseman were vulnerable to carburetor icing, which could lead to sudden engine failure. Without visibility or enough altitude, the pilot would have had mere seconds to react, making survival unlikely. Another significant theory centers around the possibility that Miller's plane was a victim of friendly fire. During the same time frame, almost 150 Allied bombers were returning from a canceled mission over Germany and jettisoned their bombs over the English Channel. Some theorists speculate that Miller's plane may have inadvertently flown into this airspace and been struck by falling bombs. Others speculate that due to poor weather conditions, Miller's plane may have been attacked by one of the escort planes. Both of these theories are generally considered unlikely, given two factors that were at play at the time. First, being struck by a falling bomb while in flight is just incredibly unlikely. While it is theoretically possible, the chances of this happening are considered extremely low. With respect to the theory that Glenn Miller's plane was inadvertently attacked by an escort plane, this theory has also run into a significant issue. In December 1944, the Allies had virtual total and complete air superiority over the English Channel, and all Allied pilots would have been very acutely aware of this. As such, it's not likely that an Allied pilot would attack even an unknown plane flying over the English Channel at that time. Conspiratorial claims about Miller's disappearance have also emerged over the decades. Perhaps the most common claim builds upon the friendly fire theory. According to this theory, Miller's plane was accidentally fired upon, and the Allies covered it up to avoid the morale hit. One popular theory suggests that Miller was on a secret espionage mission and was slain, presumably by German agents. These ideas stem largely from Miller's participation in Allied propaganda, and the fact that his demise would be considered a significant blow to Allied morale. However, no credible evidence has surfaced to support these claims, and historians have largely dismissed them as wartime rumors inflated by the public's fascination with Miller's mysterious fate. The true cause of Miller's disappearance might never be definitively known, especially given the lack of physical evidence. However, most experts today agree that adverse weather conditions and mechanical failure are the most likely explanations. Miller's official status remains missing in action, and despite extensive investigations over the years, his body, along with those of the pilot and one other passenger, was never recovered. On October 13, 2018, Carly Gousset, a 16-year-old girl, vanished without a trace from her home in Chalfont Valley, near Bishop, California. Despite extensive search efforts by law enforcement, volunteers, and specialized teams, her whereabouts remain unknown. On the evening of October 12, 2018, Carly attended a small gathering with her boyfriend and friends, where she reportedly experimented with pot. According to accounts, she began experiencing intense fear and paranoia after consuming the substance, which was uncharacteristic of her usual behavior. Concerned for her well-being, her boyfriend escorted her home from the party. Upon arrival, her stepmom, Melissa, noted that Carly appeared disoriented and frightened. In an attempt to monitor her condition, Melissa stayed up with Carly throughout the night. She recorded an audio clip of their conversation, intending to use it as a cautionary lesson about the potential dangers of substance use. The contents of the recording have not been publicly released, but it is believed to capture Carly's distressed state. At approximately 5:45 a.m. on October 13th, Melissa claims she checked on Carly, who was still awake but seemed calmer. Melissa then returned to bed, and when she awoke around 7:15 a.m., Carly was no longer in her room. The front door was found slightly ajar, and there were no signs of forced entry or struggle within the home, suggesting that Carly had left the house on her own accord. Multiple witnesses reported seeing a girl matching Carly's description walking south along Highway 6 between 7 and 7:30 a.m. Notably, it hasn't been confirmed whether these sightings were Carly, though investigators strongly believe this is the case. She was reportedly dressed in a white t-shirt, gray sweatpants or gray jeans, and Vans shoes, clothing insufficient for the chilly morning temperatures. These sightings are the last known indications of Carly's movements before she vanished. Law enforcement agencies, including the Mono County Sheriff's Office and the FBI, launched an extensive search operation. Helicopters, drones, scent tracking dogs, and ground search teams scoured the rugged terrain of the high desert area. The challenging environment, characterized by vast open spaces and harsh conditions, complicated the search efforts. Despite these efforts, no physical evidence or personal belongings of Carly were found. While some theories suggest that Carly may have become disoriented and succumbed to the elements, others propose the possibility of abduction or other forms of foul play. The lack of concrete evidence has made it difficult for investigators to conclusively support any single theory. Adding to the intricacies of the case are differing accounts provided by family members. Carly's biological mother, Lindsay Fairley, has publicly expressed skepticism regarding the details shared by Melissa. These allegations primarily surround the theory that Carly may have suffered from an accidental overdose in the early hours of October 13th, 2018. However, it's important to stress that there is absolutely no evidence of this, and there is no evidence that she consumed any substance other than weed. While she did have a negative reaction, this substance is, to put it mildly, not generally a primary factor in accidental overdose cases. Unfortunately, the tension between the families has been a focal point in media coverage, sometimes overshadowing the search for Carly herself. National media outlets have spotlighted the case in hopes of generating new leads. Appearances on programs like Dr. Phil have brought wider attention, but have also led to increased scrutiny and sensationalism. Notably, the FBI continues to investigate Carly's disappearance and holds out hope for a resolution to her case. If you have any information with respect to Carly or her whereabouts, please contact the FBI or the Mono County Sheriff's Department with details. On April 14th, 1561, the skies above Nuremberg, Germany, were filled with strange and terrifying celestial objects. This sighting is what many modern UFO researchers consider one of the most significant early sightings of UFOs. At dawn, the citizens of Nuremberg witnessed what appeared to be an aerial battle between various shapes, including spheres, cylinders, and crosses. This was followed by the appearance of a massive black triangular object, which also engaged in combat. Notably, the phenomenon was not only aerial, but some of the objects were shot down and were observed by witnesses. Unlike other older UFO events, which are based on scant information and debatable interpretations of text. This event was published in full illustrated detail in a newspaper called a broadsheet. The broadsheet, a popular form of news dissemination in the 16th century, described this event in dramatic terms, noting how numerous men and women witnessed the sight. Notably, given the wide circulation of this newspaper in the city of Nuremberg itself, theorists argue that the event must have accorded with the reality of the day, and the event was widely discussed. Some religious interpretations focused on the crosses in the sky as symbols of divine intervention, while others saw the entire event as a warning or a manifestation of heavenly forces. Modern interpretations of the 1561 Nuremberg event vary significantly. Many Fox Mulder types believe this to be one of the earliest and most clear-cut examples of extraterrestrial visitation or a UFO battle. The event is also cited as proof that humans have been witnessing unidentified aerial phenomena for centuries, long before modern technology could explain these occurrences. Skeptics, however, offer alternative explanations for the Nuremberg sighting. One of the most popular theories is that the event was caused by atmospheric phenomena, particularly a type of optical effect known as a sundog. Sundogs are bright spots that appear on either side of the sun, often creating the illusion of additional lights or objects in the sky. This phenomenon, along with other optical effects such as halos, could account for the multiple shapes and colors described in the broadsheet. If you're just listening right now, you may also want to look at what a sundog actually looks like and compare the two images. Further, the sundog theory fails to account for the reported crashing of these objects into the areas surrounding Nuremberg. Skeptics also argue that the Nuremberg event may have been a case of mass hysteria. This is a psychological phenomenon in which a large group of people simultaneously experience delusions or hallucinations due to collective stress or fear. The 16th century in the Holy Roman Empire was an extremely tumultuous time, marked by religious tensions and wars. These societal pressures may have primed the citizens of Nuremberg to misinterpret natural atmospheric events as something supernatural or threatening. This theory suggests that the battle in the sky could have been a shared hallucination, where people influenced each other's perceptions. The vivid descriptions of the event, including crosses, spheres, and cylinders, may have been the result of cognitive bias, as individuals tried to make sense of unfamiliar natural phenomena. The religious and superstitious context of the time likely amplified these interpretations, leading to a shared belief that they were witnessing a divine or celestial event. Another theory purports that the Nuremberg event was indeed real, but that it was a sighting of biblically accurate angels. In many biblical texts, angels are described as awe-inspiring, radiant figures descending from the sky, often accompanied by bright lights and celestial imagery. For example, in the book of Ezekiel, the prophet describes seeing wheels within wheels and bright glowing figures, which he interpreted as angelic beings. Similarly, in the Nuremberg sighting, witnesses reported seeing spherical and cylindrical objects, which could be viewed as reminiscent of these wheels and other worldly figures. Importantly, this case is extremely hard to dismiss, given the body of evidence surrounding it, and everyone accepts that high strangeness occurred in the skies over Nuremberg on April 14, 1561. The Goat Man is a cryptid found in certain parts of the United States, though predominantly in the states of Maryland and Texas. Described as a half-man, half-goat hybrid, this cryptid is often portrayed wielding an axe and lurking in wooded areas, instilling fear in those who cross its path. In Maryland, the Goat Man is closely associated with Prince George's County. One of the earliest tales dates back to the 1950s and 1960s, centering around the vicinity of Fletchertown Road. According to local lore, The Goatman was once a scientist named Stephen Fletcher, who worked at the Beltsville Agricultural Research Center. After a failed experiment involving goat DNA, he mutated into the monstrous Goatman. Another version of the Maryland Goatman legend portrays him as an old hermit living in the woods, emerging at night to attack cars with an axe. Sightings often describe a creature with the lower body of a goat and the upper body of a man, standing around 7 feet tall and covered in coarse hair. The Maryland Goatman is said to emit high-pitched squeals or goat-like bleats, adding an eerie auditory element to the encounters. The Goatman of Maryland gained significant attention in 1971 when the death of a dog was attributed to the creature. A local family blamed the Goatman for the incident, leading to widespread panic and numerous reported sightings, and the story went national, being picked up by the Washington Post. In Texas, the Goatman is linked to the old Alton Bridge in Denton County, popularly known as Goatman's Bridge. Built in 1884, this iron truss bridge spans Hickory Creek and has become a hotspot for paranormal enthusiasts. The legend tells of a successful black goat farmer named Oscar Washburn, who was known as the Goatman due to his trade. Oscar Washburn is said to have relocated to the area sometime after the Civil War, and some locals, jealous of his success, are said to have slain him on the Goatman's Bridge. Visitors to Goatman's Bridge have reported eerie phenomena, including strange noises, apparitions, and the unsettling feeling of being watched. Some claim to have seen a goat-headed figure on the bridge, or in the surrounding woods. The Goatman legend shares similarities with other North American cryptids, such as the Pope Lick Monster in Kentucky and the Sheepman of Pennsylvania. While the Goatman is primarily a figure of regional folklore, the advent of the internet has propelled the legend to a wider audience. Reddit, YouTube, creepypasta stories, and social media have allowed for the sharing and embellishment of Goatman tales. Despite the numerous accounts and stories, concrete evidence of the Goatman's existence remains elusive. Photographs and videos purporting to show the creature are often blurry or easily debunked as hoaxes, according to skeptics. However, believers maintain that the creature may have been caught on a trail cam. Dag Hammarskjöld, the second Secretary General of the United Nations, was a central figure in international diplomacy during the tumultuous years of the Cold War. His commitment to peace and conflict resolution earned him global respect. However, his sudden death in a plane crash on September 18, 1961, near Ndola in northern Rhodesia, present-day Zambia, has been a source of enduring speculation. The ambiguous circumstances surrounding the crash have given rise to numerous conspiracy theories, suggesting that his death was not entirely accidental. At the time of his demise, Hammarskjöld was actively involved in mediating the Congo crisis, a complex conflict that erupted following the Congo's independence from Belgium in 1960. The crisis was characterized by political turmoil, secessionist movements, and numerous foreign interventions. Hammarskjöld was en route to negotiate a ceasefire with Moise Tshombe, the leader of the secessionist state of Katanga, which was rich in mineral resources. Unsurprisingly, this mineral-rich breakaway state had attracted significant foreign interest. The official investigation conducted by the Rhodesian authorities concluded that the crash was due to pilot error. According to this report, the pilots misjudged their approach in the dark and crashed into the forested terrain short of the runway. However, this explanation was met with skepticism. Eyewitnesses reported sightings of a second aircraft and other unusual aerial activity at the time of the crash. These accounts were largely dismissed or overlooked in the initial inquiry, fueling suspicions of a cover-up. One prominent conspiracy theory suggests that Hammarskjöld's plane was shot down by mercenaries hired by European mining companies operating in Katanga. These corporations were reportedly apprehensive about Hammarskjöld's efforts to reintegrate Katanga into the Congo, fearing it would jeopardize their lucrative mining operations. Evidence cited in support of this theory includes witness testimonies of a smaller aircraft firing upon the Secretary General's plane and intercepted radio communications hinting at an attack. Another theory implicates Western intelligence agencies, such as the CIA, in orchestrating the crash. Proponents argue that Hammarskjöld's push for decolonization and his stance of neutrality in the Cold War conflicted with Western strategic interests in Africa. Declassified documents and statements from former intelligence officials have been interpreted to suggest that these agencies viewed Hammarskjöld as an obstacle to their objectives. In 1998, South Africa released a report containing a purported telegram that referred to a plot, codenamed Operation Celeste, to eliminate Hammarskjöld. While the authenticity of the document has been disputed, it added weight to claims that his death was orchestrated by those opposed to his policies. In 2015, then UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon appointed an independent panel of experts to examine new information. The panel's report indicated that significant evidence existed to warrant a full investigation, noting that some member states might possess undisclosed information pertinent to the case. In 2017, a follow-up report urged the UN to pursue the release of classified documents from member states, particularly the United States, the United Kingdom, and South Africa. The report highlighted that without access to these records, reaching a definitive conclusion would remain challenging. The reluctance of certain governments to declassify documents from the period has perpetuated suspicions of a cover-up. Another factor leading to belief in a conspiracy to slay Hammarskjöld comes from a cryptic statement made by Harry Truman. Truman, who was out of office at the time of the statement, made a statement that explicitly stated that Hammarskjöld was slain because he was about to get something done. Hey everyone, it's Jimmy here, taking a second to gently remind you to like and subscribe and to hit the notification bell. Also, if you're enjoying the video so far, don't forget to hit the share button and send my video to your friends and family. Tinkerbell, dotting the I in the Disney logo, is a striking example of the Mandela effect, a phenomenon where people collectively misremember an event or detail that never happened. Some believers in the Mandela effect assert that these collective misrememberings aren't the result of collective faulty memories, but rather as a result of the multiverse. According to this theory, different timelines in the multiverse lead to slightly different memories for certain groups of people. This specific memory, in which many recall Tinkerbell flying across the screen and using her wand to dot the I in the word Disney, has captivated fans for years. Despite vivid memories, there is no actual evidence of this animation in any official Disney film intro. In the case of Tinkerbell, many individuals claim to distinctly remember seeing this sequence on VHS tapes or early Disney intros. However, no concrete video evidence supports this recollection. Also, full disclosure, until I researched this topic, I had fully believed that Tinkerbell did dot the I on the Disney logo at the start of movies in the 90s. To editorialize a bit here, I have an extremely clear memory of seeing this introduction at the start of a Beauty and the Beast VHS tape. I actually still have the tape, but unfortunately I don't have a VHS player, so I've been unable to test this out with my copy, but I digress. Some fans theorize that this memory may be the result of conflating various intros where Tinkerbell appears, for instance in The Wonderful World of Disney or the 1990s Disney logo, where she did fly around the castle. In these versions, Tinkerbell often waved her wand to create sparkles or fireworks, but she never specifically dotted the I in Disney. This confusion has spread across social media, where people passionately debate the existence of the scene. Many, such as myself, assert that they can vividly recall the blue background and white Disney Castle intro where Tinkerbell supposedly completes the logo with her wand. Despite their confidence, repeated efforts to find footage have failed, suggesting that this memory is a result of the Mandela effect. Kilroy Was Here stands as one of the most widespread cultural phenomena from World War II, a simple yet powerful symbol of American presence across the globe. The graffiti, typically depicting a bald man with a large nose peeking over a wall, appeared wherever U.S. soldiers traveled during the war. Accompanied by the phrase, "Kilroy was here," this doodle became a morale booster for American troops, a symbol of camaraderie and a point of confusion for enemies. The origins of Kilroy Was Here are still debated, with no definitive conclusion. However, the most widely accepted theory points to James J. Kilroy, a shipyard inspector from Massachusetts. Working at the Fore River shipyard during the war, Kilroy would mark the phrase, "Kilroy was here," on various parts of ships he inspected. His job involved ensuring that workers were not double counting rivets, so he used this mark to verify his inspections. As these ships traveled to different battle zones, the message spread, creating the myth of Kilroy being present everywhere. The doodle itself, however, may not have originated with Kilroy. Another drawing popular during the war, known as Chad in Britain, depicted a similar figure bemoaning shortages with phrases like, "What? No sugar?" and "What? No petrol?" British and American soldiers likely combined these elements, with Chad's distinctive appearance merging with Kilroy's name to create the enduring image. Throughout the war, Kilroy Was Here took on a life of its own. It became a viral meme in a pre-digital era, spreading rapidly across the theaters of conflict. U.S. soldiers inscribed it on tanks, bombers, and buildings as they advanced, giving the impression that Kilroy had been there first, even in some of the most remote places. This widespread tagging confused enemy forces, especially when tagged by reconnaissance units who were in enemy territory. A certain failed Austrian painter reportedly believed that Kilroy could be a spy, while Joseph Stalin came across the graffiti at the Potsdam Conference and was similarly baffled. Notably, Stalin supposedly found this graffiti in his private washroom, which was supposedly only accessed by Soviets, further confusing him as to how it could have appeared there. Beyond its symbolic significance for the troops, Kilroy's presence also boosted public morale at home. Newspapers and magazines carried stories about the mysterious figure, and his omnipresence provided a subtle reminder of American strength and resilience. As World War II dragged on, Kilroy Was Here began to symbolize that no location, no matter how remote, was beyond the reach of American military power. In the post-war years, the legend of Kilroy continued to grow, and the graffiti continued to go wherever Americans went. The cultural impact of Kilroy Was Here was so significant that it even entered the realm of pop culture. By the late 1940s, it appeared in cartoons, movies, and comics, further embedding the figure in the American consciousness. For instance, Bugs Bunny encountered Kilroy's mark on the moon in the 1948 cartoon Hair Devil, demonstrating just how far-reaching the meme had become. Suzanne Morphew, a 49-year-old mother of two, disappeared from her home in Maysville, Colorado on May 10, 2020, after reportedly going on a bike ride. Her husband, Barry Morphew, reported her missing after receiving a call from a neighbor when their daughters, who were out of town, couldn't reach her. Despite extensive searches involving hundreds of volunteers, drones, dogs, and even offers of a substantial reward, Suzanne was not found for over 3 years. On the day Suzanne disappeared, her bike was found at the bottom of a steep ravine near their home, but investigators quickly noted that the scene was unusual. There were no signs of a crash or struggle, and no blood was found nearby. Suzanne's helmet was later discovered on the side of the road, undamaged. These details raised questions about whether the bike ride had been staged, leading investigators to suspect foul play early on in the case. Barry Morphew, who initially posted an emotional video pleading for Suzanne's return, soon became the primary suspect. By May 2021, a year after her disappearance, Barry was charged with her slaying. Investigators cited a range of evidence, including suspicious GPS data from Barry's truck, which indicated he had been moving in and out of his driveway in the early hours of May 10th. Notably, they also cited that his phone had been switched to airplane mode at some point during this time. Additionally, a tranquilizer dart cap was found in the family's dryer, which investigators thought may have been involved. Tranquilizer chemicals were later confirmed to have been in Suzanne's system after her remains were discovered. But just wait before jumping to any conclusions here, because there's a twist coming that you probably won't expect. The investigation also revealed that Suzanne had been having a 2-year-long affair, which became an important piece of the case as it shed light on the troubled state of the marriage. Text messages between Suzanne and her lover, as well as with her friends, suggested that she felt emotionally trapped and unhappy in the marriage. Barry, on the other hand, consistently denied any wrongdoing, claiming the two had spent the night before her disappearance together and had a pleasant evening. In April 2022, the charges against Barry were dropped without prejudice due to the exclusion of critical evidence, including expert witness testimony and other investigative findings. This dismissal left open the possibility that Barry could be charged again in the future, depending on new evidence. However, Barry filed a $15 million civil lawsuit against the prosecutors, alleging that his arrest and the charges were based on flimsy evidence that was improperly handled. The case took a dramatic turn in September 2023, when Suzanne's remains were found in a remote area of Saguache County, more than 40 miles from her home. The remains were uncovered during an unrelated investigation, providing a heartbreaking conclusion to the long search for Suzanne. Although the remains were heavily decomposed, authorities ruled her death a homicide, but could not determine the exact cause. The autopsy reported that Suzanne had been exposed to a cocktail of tranquilizer drugs commonly used for wildlife. Also at this point, I should mention that on September 10, 2024, the district attorney that handled the case was disbarred over her handling of the case. Amongst the most severe claims against the district attorney is that she withheld evidence from Barry's defense attorneys, which did not fit with the district attorney's theory of the case. I think it's necessary at this point to take a moment to discuss the extreme severity of what the district attorney did and why it was found that this was sufficient for disbarment. In the U.S. criminal justice system, the presumption of innocence means that anyone accused of a crime is considered innocent until proven guilty. This is a fundamental right, meaning the government must prove a person is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Simply put, the accused doesn't need to prove their innocence. Instead, the prosecution must show evidence of their guilt. In criminal prosecutions, the prosecution must share the evidence they have before the trial begins. This process theoretically allows for a fair trial, because without this rule, a prosecutor could simply choose not to disclose unfavorable evidence to their position, as happened in this case. Fundamental to this idea is that if the prosecution finds evidence that proves the accused might not be guilty, they are required to share it with the defense. At any rate, despite the discovery of her remains, no new charges have been filed, and the case remains unresolved. Given the prosecutorial misconduct involved in this case, any future prosecution against any party appears to be highly unlikely. The interdimensional alien hypothesis presents an alternative explanation to the widely accepted extraterrestrial hypothesis for the origin of unidentified flying objects. The IDH suggests that UFOs and their occupants may originate from parallel dimensions or realities that coexist with our own. This hypothesis has gained considerable attention and has been advocated by prominent ufologists like Jacques Vallée. Vallée, perhaps the most prominent advocate of this theory, argued that the behaviors associated with UFO sightings are inconsistent with the notion of visitors from distant planets. Vallée proposed that UFOs might represent a parallel universe coexisting with our own. He proposed that their appearance in our reality could involve manipulation of space and time in ways that our current science cannot fully understand. John Keel, another ufologist, further expanded on the idea of non-human entities interacting with humanity through his ultra-terrestrial theory. Keel argued that many paranormal events, ranging from sightings of strange creatures to UFO encounters, could be explained by entities that have the ability to shift between dimensions. His theory tied them to traditional supernatural beings like ghosts, fairies, angels, and demons, as well as famously to cryptids like the Mothman. The scientific basis for the interdimensional hypothesis draws on theoretical physics, particularly ideas related to quantum mechanics and the multiverse theory. Physicists have long speculated about the possibility of multiple dimensions beyond the familiar three-dimensional space and one-dimensional time. String theory, for instance, suggests the existence of additional spatial dimensions, while the concept of a multiverse proposes that our universe could be just one of many coexisting realities. Proponents of the IDH argue that UFOs might be manifestations of beings or vehicles from these alternate dimensions, appearing in our reality due to fluctuations or overlaps between universes. One of the most intriguing aspects of the IDH is its ability to explain the seemingly bizarre and non-physical behaviors often associated with UFOs. For example, many UFO sightings involve objects that appear to defy the laws of physics, moving at incredible speeds, making sharp turns, or vanishing abruptly. These anomalies could be explained if the objects were not bound by the same laws as our universe, suggesting they might originate from a reality where different laws of physics apply. The IDH also offers a compelling explanation for the long history of strange phenomena that predates modern UFO sightings. From ancient myths of gods descending from the heavens to medieval reports of strange aerial phenomena like in Nuremberg in 1561, virtually all cultures have reported anomalous events. Vallée and other IDH proponents argue that these accounts could represent early interactions with interdimensional beings, who appeared in forms that were comprehensible to those people. In modern times, the IDH has gained traction as a way to interpret the wide variety of experiences reported by UFO witnesses. Another notable advocate of the IDH is David Grush, a former U.S. intelligence officer who has claimed that the U.S. government has evidence of advanced interdimensional technology. In 2023, Grush suggested that some UFOs might not be extraterrestrial, but could come from a higher dimensional physical space, echoing Vallée's earlier theories. The smiley face killer theory proposes that a series of purported accidental drownings involving young men across the United States are connected and the result of foul play. The theory further holds that this killer is either a single traveling perpetrator or a group working in concert with one another. This theory emerged in the late 1990s and early 2000s when retired New York City detectives Kevin Gannon and Anthony Duarte began investigating a cluster of mysterious deaths of college-aged men. These young men were generally found in bodies of water after nights out drinking. They noticed similarities in the cases and hypothesized that the deaths were linked to this perpetrator or group of perpetrators. They examined cases in several states, including Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, and New York. They observed that many of the victims were generally academically successful, athletic, and popular, fitting a similar profile. The detectives proposed that the victims were targeted and that their deaths were staged to look like accidental drownings. A key piece of evidence cited by proponents of the theory is the presence of smiley face graffiti near the locations where some of the bodies were recovered. Gannon and Duarte claim to have found this symbol at least 22 times in connection with these cases. They suggested that the graffiti could be a signature left by the alleged killer or killers, hinting at a network operating across multiple states. One of the earliest cases associated with the theory is the 1997 disappearance of Patrick McNeil, a Fordham University student who vanished after leaving a Manhattan bar. His body was later found in the East River, and the case was officially ruled as an accidental drowning by the City of New York Medical Examiner's Office. Gannon, who was involved in the investigation at the time, believed there were inconsistencies that pointed to foul play. This case became a catalyst for the detectives' broader inquiry into similar incidents. In 2008, the theory gained national attention when it was featured on national media outlets that were popular at the time, such as CNN. Gannon and Duarte presented their findings, arguing that the number of similar cases could not be coincidental. They highlighted patterns such as the victims being last seen intoxicated, the presence of smiley face graffiti, and the recovery of bodies from water. Critics of the theory, including law enforcement agencies and the FBI, have been extremely skeptical, to put it mildly. The FBI released a statement in 2008 indicating that their investigations had not found any evidence to support the theory of a serial killer or group targeting these individuals. They maintained that the drownings were tragic accidents, often involving alcohol consumption and misadventure. Despite official skepticism, families of some victims have supported the theory, seeking further investigation into the deaths of their loved ones. They have raised concerns about inconsistencies in autopsy reports, the condition of the bodies, and the lack of thorough investigations by local authorities. Several cases have been re-examined due to public interest generated by the theory. For example, the death of Dakota James in Pittsburgh in 2017 drew attention when his family questioned the circumstances surrounding his disappearance and death. They noted that surveillance footage and other evidence did not align with the conclusion of accidental drowning. Proponents of the theory argue that the similarities across cases are too significant to ignore, citing the similar demographics, the time of the disappearances, and the smiley face graffiti. They believe that these patterns suggest organized activity rather than random, unrelated incidents. On the other hand, experts in criminology and psychology caution against drawing conclusions based on anecdotal evidence and coincidences. They emphasize the importance of rigorous investigation and the dangers of confirmation bias. Further, other skeptics argue that smiley faces are amongst the most common graffiti, if not the most common graffiti, in the United States. They argue that it may be more rare to find a crime or accident in a heavily urbanized environment where no smiley face graffiti can be located in the vicinity. Media portrayals have both amplified interest in the theory and contributed to controversy. Documentaries, podcasts, and news segments have explored the cases, sometimes presenting sensationalized accounts that only present one side of the argument. Regardless of your opinion on this theory, there has undoubtedly been one positive effect. The theory has spurred discussions about safety, especially for young men in urban environments, and especially around bodies of water at night while intoxicated. Also, stay tuned because I'll be discussing the Patrick McNeil case, often linked to the smiley face theory, later on in this episode. Pumapunku is a remarkable example of pre-Columbian architecture that continues to baffle archaeologists and engineers alike. Situated near Lake Titicaca at an altitude of over 12,000 feet, Pumapunku showcases extremely sophisticated stonework many believe was impossible at the time. Built between approximately 500 and 600 AD, this site was part of the Tiwanaku civilization, one of the most advanced cultures in South America prior to the rise of the Inca. The architectural style found at Pumapunku is characterized by large, finely cut stones, which are notable for their extreme geometric precision. Some blocks weigh over 130 tons and were transported from quarries several miles away, with red sandstone being sourced from about 15 miles away. Additionally, some minerals for the stone facing and carvings came from quarries located over 60 miles away. The most famous aspects of Pumapunku is its incredibly large stone blocks, many of which feature precise cuts and intricate carvings. The so-called H blocks have become iconic in discussions of the site's engineering, with each block having around 80 geometrically perfect faces. These blocks were cut in such a way that they fit together like a puzzle, creating interlocking joints that contributed to the structure's durability without the use of mortar. Some stones even feature small drilled holes that were likely used to join stones together using metal clamps. The exact methods used to transport and assemble these massive stones remain a subject of significant speculation. Various conventional theories suggest that ramps, inclined planes, or even rudimentary rollers might have been used. However, without the wheel or advanced machinery, these methods would have required a highly organized and skilled workforce. The intricate design and craftsmanship seen at Pumapunku, combined with the sheer size of the blocks used, have led some to speculate about the use of advanced technology or external influence. While popular theories involving ancient aliens have gained traction, mainstream archaeology attributes the construction of the site to the highly skilled Tiwanaku people. It's Jimmy here, once again reminding you to like and subscribe and to hit the notification bell. Also remember, if you want to take it to the next level, you can do so with the Patreon or with a YouTube membership. Benefits include occasional early access to new content and shoutouts, and just generally helping the channel continue on. The YouTube video titled, "Hi Walter, I got a new girlfriend today," was posted in 2009, but it garnered significant attention only in 2016 when it went viral due to its unsettling content. The video features a man addressing his friend Walter, describing a new girlfriend he supposedly met at a mall. As the video progresses, the man enthusiastically recounts his time with her. The tone, initially innocuous, takes a disturbing turn when the man opens a door to reveal a woman held in what appears to be a basement, cellar, or some other confined space. The unsettling nature of the video led many viewers to speculate about its authenticity and possible connection to real-life events. Specifically, the video drew attention when people began linking it to the disappearance of Kayla Berg, a 15-year-old girl who vanished in August 2009 in Antigo, Wisconsin. The timing of the video, which was uploaded just 2 months after Kayla's disappearance, along with the striking physical resemblance between Kayla and the woman in the video, sparked concern. Kayla's mother, Hope Springer, reacted to the video with alarm, stating that there were similarities in the appearance and demeanor of the captive woman to her missing daughter. This led to further investigations by the Antigo Police Department. Police Chief Eric Roller acknowledged the video's disturbing content and confirmed that his department was seeking to determine whether it was merely a hoax or something more sinister. Despite the visual and emotional connections drawn by many viewers, authorities were unable to definitively link the video to Kayla's disappearance initially. In terms of its production, the video feels amateurish and appears deliberately low budget, contributing to its unsettling, almost found footage style. This quality has led to various interpretations. Some viewers believe it to be a poorly executed hoax, meant to incite fear, while others feel it might be indicative of something more malevolent. Eventually, the man in the video was contacted by the Antigo Police Department, and the police were able to determine that the video was a horror-style staged production. The video has since been removed from YouTube, and the individuals involved in the video have chosen to continue to remain anonymous, with the studio behind it issuing an apology. There has been much speculation that the High Walter video was intended to be an ARG, which started in 2009, but due to it getting no traction then, the project was abandoned and forgotten until 2016. Also, be sure to stay tuned because the unsolved disappearance of Kayla Berg will be discussed shortly. The Nephilim are enigmatic figures referenced in ancient Hebrew texts, particularly in the Book of Genesis and the Book of Numbers. Described as the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of men, they have been a subject of fascination and debate among scholars, theologians, and historians for millennia. In the Book of Genesis, the Nephilim are introduced in a passage that has spurred various interpretations. Quote, "The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown." This verse has led to questions about the identity of the sons of God and the nature of their union with human women. One prevalent interpretation is that the sons of God were divine beings or fallen angels who intermingled with humans, producing the Nephilim, often considered giants or mighty warriors. The term Nephilim derives from a Hebrew word, which is sometimes translated as giants or the fallen ones. The Septuagint, an ancient Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible, renders the word as gigantes, meaning giants. This translation has reinforced the perception of the Nephilim as beings of extraordinary size and strength. In the Book of Numbers, the Nephilim are mentioned again when the Israelite spies report back about the land of Canaan. Quote, "We saw the Nephilim there. The descendants of Anak come from the Nephilim. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them." This account emphasizes their imposing stature and the fear they instilled in others. Different theories attempt to explain the origins of the Nephilim. One suggests that the sons of God were the descendants of Seth, Adam's third son, representing a godly lineage, while the daughters of men were from the line of Cain. This interpretation views the Nephilim as the result of intermarriage between righteous and unrighteous lines, leading to moral corruption, which instilled fear into the hearts of the righteous. Another theory posits that the sons of God were indeed angelic beings. This perspective is supported by texts like the Book of Enoch, an ancient Jewish work that expands on the Genesis narrative. The Book of Enoch describes a group of 200 angels, known as the Watchers, who descended to earth, took human wives, and taught humanity various arts and sciences. Notably, the Book of Enoch is considered non-canon in all Christian traditions. The Nephilim's association with the pre-flood era links them to themes of widespread wickedness. Their existence is sometimes cited as a factor contributing to God's decision to send the flood, aiming to cleanse the earth of corruption. Despite the flood's intent to eradicate such corruption, the mention of Nephilim, and also afterward, suggests their influence persisted. In post-biblical literature, the Nephilim continue to intrigue readers. In Christian interpretations, the Nephilim sometimes symbolize the depth of human depravity before the flood and the need for redemption. The Dead Sea Scrolls, discovered in the mid-20th century, include references to the Nephilim and may provide some additional context into them. Archaeological pursuits have occasionally intersected with the Nephilim narrative. Some claims of discovering giant human skeletons have surfaced over the years, but these are generally dismissed by the scientific community and skeptics as hoaxes or misinterpretations. The Nephilim story also intersects with other ancient Near Eastern myths. Similar tales of gods or divine beings mating with humans appear in Greek mythology, such as the demigods born from Zeus and mortal women. The disappearance of 15-year-old Kayla Berg from Antigo, Wisconsin in 2009 continues to attract significant attention, thanks in part to the High Walter video discussed earlier. Kayla was last seen on August 11, 2009, when she was dropped off by her brother's friend, Kevin Kilcheski, near an abandoned house where her ex-boyfriend once lived. The house was located in Wausau, about 40 minutes away from her hometown. According to Kevin, he did not see anyone inside the house and did not stay to confirm whether Kayla had entered. This was the last time anyone reported seeing her. The night of her disappearance followed a somewhat typical routine for Kayla. She had been out with friends and reportedly consumed weed with Kevin during the evening. The fact that Kayla knew the house was condemned has raised questions about why she would choose to go there, leading authorities to suspect foul play. However, despite initial suspicions, no concrete evidence has emerged to explain what might have happened after Kevin dropped her off. Adding to the confusion was a delay in reporting Kayla missing. Because her parents were separated and maintained an open-door policy for their children, it took nearly 6 days for her mother to realize Kayla had not returned home. Each parent had assumed Kayla was with the other, and it wasn't until days later that the alarm was raised. This mix-up has led to some online sleuths considering her family to be suspicious, though this avenue does not appear to be considered to any significant degree by investigators. From the outset, investigators struggled with inconsistent information from Kayla's friends. Some of her acquaintances seemed evasive when questioned, initially fueling speculation that Kayla might have been a runaway. However, as days turned into weeks, that theory was dismissed when no contact was made by Kayla, and none of her belongings indicated that she had made plans to leave. Kevin became a person of interest due to his involvement on the night of Kayla's disappearance. In October 2009, he was arrested and charged with second-degree reckless endangerment, based on his admission of substance use with a minor. Although the charges were later dismissed in 2011 for lack of evidence, Kevin stopped cooperating with the investigation after this point. There were no further breakthroughs, despite some suggestions that items of interest had been found on the property. These discoveries, however, were never tied definitively to Kayla's disappearance. In the years following her disappearance, several leads emerged but failed to produce results. As discussed earlier, a disturbing video surfaced in 2016 showing a girl who resembled Kayla trapped in a basement. This video went viral, prompting a renewed wave of interest in the case, but it was later debunked as a hoax with no connection to her disappearance. Notably, while the High Walter video isn't related to Kayla's disappearance, the status of the video in the pantheon of creepy YouTube videos appears to ensure significant continued interest online in her case. The Antigo Police Department continues to treat Kayla's case as an active investigation. If you have any information with respect to the disappearance of Kayla Berg, please contact the Antigo Police Department. Familiars in occult practice are supernatural entities believed to assist witches and magicians in their magical workings. Often taking the form of animals or animal-like creatures, they act as guides, protectors, or servants to the practitioner. In European folklore, particularly during the witch trials of the Middle Ages and the early modern period, familiars were thought to be demons or spirits given to witches by the devil. They commonly appeared as domestic animals such as cats, dogs, toads, or even insects, disguising their true nature from the untrained eye. These familiars were believed to possess magical powers, providing witches with knowledge, teaching them new spells, or performing tasks on their behalf. The relationship between a witch and their familiar was considered contractual, sealed through a pact or agreement. This bond was often solidified by the witch feeding the familiar with milk, bodily fluids, or other offerings, establishing a reciprocal relationship. Beyond Europe, the concept of spirit companions or familiars is prevalent in various cultures. In shamanistic practices worldwide, shamans interact with spirit animals or guides that assist them in navigating the spiritual realm. These entities are viewed as benevolent helpers, providing wisdom, healing, and a connection to the natural world. In some Native American traditions, for example, animal spirits play a crucial role in guiding and protecting individuals and communities. In African and Afro-Caribbean traditions such as Voodoo and Santeria, practitioners engage with spirit entities or deities called Loa or Orishas, which can act similarly to familiars. The use of familiars in occult practice is not limited to historical contexts. In contemporary paganism, witchcraft, and occultism, the concept of the familiar has evolved. Modern practitioners may interpret familiars as representations of inner aspects of themselves, spirit guides, or elemental energies. Some seek physical animal companions, believing that a strong bond with an animal can enhance their spiritual practice and connection to nature, though this is not universally accepted as being a familiar. In ritual magic and ceremonial practices, familiars can also be seen as thought forms or egregores, energies or entities created and empowered by the practitioner's focus and intent. These constructs serve specific purposes within the magical framework, acting as extensions of the practitioner's will. The creation and use of such entities require discipline and ethical considerations, as they involve manipulating subtle energies. While the role of the familiars is often portrayed as that of a companion or teacher, their role as a protector is significant. Practitioners often call upon them to guard against malevolent spirits, negative energies, or psychic attacks. In some traditions, the familiar acts as a mediator between the practitioner and other spiritual entities, facilitating communication and ensuring safe passage through various realms. Methods of acquiring a familiar vary across different practices. Some traditions involve rituals to summon and bind a spirit to serve as a familiar. Others emphasize forming a natural relationship with an animal or spirit through mutual respect and trust. Other traditions believe that the familiar can be manifested within one's mind and does not take on a physical body. The technological age has also seen the emergence of new interpretations of familiars. Some practitioners consider artificial intelligence or digital constructs as modern familiars, exploring the intersection between technology and spirituality. The Cameraheads creepypasta stands as a notable and early example of the internet horror genre. First appearing in August 2009 on 4chan's X board, which specializes in paranormal content, it revolves around the eerie discovery of strange entities known as cameraheads. These creatures, though variously described, share a disturbing trait. They are either humanoid beings with cameras for heads, or function as biomechanical surveillance devices. The original narrative, which was brief and cryptic, followed a protagonist who stumbles upon a torn envelope. The envelope bore ominous messages: "I killed a camerahead. It took Trevor, and get help if I don't come back." The story also involved a tape found near the envelope, which contained unsettling static and a mysterious clip. According to the original post, this clip was uploaded to YouTube after which the creator vanished. One reason for the enduring intrigue surrounding camera heads is its status as partially lost media that has been recovered in fragments. For many years, the story seemed to have disappeared from the internet. Despite its early popularity, the original post and much of the related content vanished, leaving behind only fragments. The creepypasta was not widely archived, and its elusive nature became part of the fascination with these creatures. In 2020, parts of the story were rediscovered, including a YouTube video believed to be connected to the original narrative. The Camerahead story falls into a category of early creepypastas that gained traction before the genre became widely recognized. Unlike more famous examples like Slender Man, Cameraheads never reached the same level of widespread recognition. What sets Cameraheads apart from other creepypastas is not only its unsettling premise, but also the mythos that built up around it in the absence of the original story. Over time, various interpretations of the Cameraheads emerged, from descriptions of them as biomechanical entities to comparisons with cryptids and surveillance devices. This uncertainty added to the fear and fascination surrounding them. Some even compared the fragmented narrative to an ARG, speculating that there may have been much more to the Cameraheads post and YouTube video. These days, Cameraheads have entered a bizarre world at the intersection of creepypastas, cryptids, and lost media. Also, to editorialize slightly, this may be my favorite creepypasta, just given how obscure and relatively unknown it is. Something about Cameraheads just fascinates me, and I suspect it's because we've been given just enough information about them to tantalize us. The Black Dog Man is a figure associated with conspiracy theories surrounding the assassination of President John F. Kennedy on November 22, 1963. This figure appears in photographs taken by spectators Philip Willis and Hugh Betzner, specifically in images shot just moments before and after the fatal gunfire in Dealey Plaza. The Black Dog Man is named for the shadowy silhouette, captured near the retaining wall at the edge of the grassy knoll. Some believe this figure resembles a person crouching or, as the name suggests, a black dog. Initially, the vague outline of what appeared to be a person behind the fence on the grassy knoll fed into the idea of a second shooter. For those who believe in a conspiracy, the Black Dog Man is potentially a sniper or an accomplice hidden in the shadows. The interpretation of the figure's presence is particularly compelling because the grassy knoll has been a central focus of many alternative theories. Some argue that this individual could have been part of a larger team tasked with ensuring Kennedy's demise, likely coordinating with others positioned around Dealey Plaza. However, alternative explanations for the Black Dog Man also exist. Marilyn Sitzman, who worked in the plaza and witnessed the events of that day, suggested that the figure may have been part of a couple sitting near the retaining wall, eating lunch, and oblivious to the events. Furthermore, the photographic evidence of the figure is ambiguous at best. The Black Dog Man is visible in images at a distance, and the quality of the photographs leaves much to interpretation. The exact nature of the silhouette, whether it is a person, an illusion caused by shadows, or something else entirely like a dog, remains uncertain. Marian apparitions, the reported supernatural appearances of the Virgin Mary, have been a profound aspect of Christian history, particularly within the Catholic tradition. One of the earliest known Marian apparitions is associated with Our Lady of the Pillar in Zaragoza, Spain, dating back to 40 AD. According to tradition, the Virgin Mary appeared to the Apostle James the Greater while he was evangelizing in Spain, instructing him to build a church in her honor. And I hear some of you asking, wait, wasn't she alive at this time still? And yes, you would be correct. This event is significant as it is believed to have occurred during Mary's lifetime, emphasizing her role in supporting the early Christian mission. The apparition of Our Lady of Guadalupe in 1531 marked a pivotal moment in the spread of Christianity in the Americas. An indigenous Mexican peasant named Juan Diego reported encountering the Virgin Mary on the hill of Tepeyac near Mexico City. She requested that a shrine be built at the site and provided Juan Diego with miraculous signs for the local bishop, including the image of herself imprinted on his cloak, known as the tilma. This image became a powerful symbol of Mexican identity and faith, blending indigenous and Spanish cultures. The 19th century witnessed several notable Marian apparitions. In 1830, Catherine Labouré, a French novice nun, experienced visions of Mary in Paris. Mary requested the creation of the miraculous medal, promising graces to those who wore it with faith. This medal spread rapidly worldwide, becoming a popular sacramental item amongst Catholics. Another significant event occurred in 1846 in La Salette, France, where two young shepherds, Maximin Giraud and Mélanie Calvat, reported that Mary appeared to them on a mountainside. She delivered messages urging repentance and emphasizing the importance of observing the Sabbath and proper reverence. Perhaps the most famous apparition of the 19th century is that of Our Lady of Lourdes in 1858. A 14-year-old girl named Bernadette Suberus reported 18 visions of a lady who identified herself as Mary. Mary instructed Bernadette to dig in the ground, revealing a spring whose waters have since been associated with miraculous healings. Lourdes has become one of the world's most important sites of pilgrimage and healing. The 20th century continued this pattern with the apparitions in Fatima, Portugal, in 1917. Three shepherd children, Lucia dos Santos and her cousins Jacinta and Francisco Marto, claimed that Mary appeared to them monthly from May to October. Mary conveyed messages emphasizing prayer, particularly the Rosary and repentance. The final apparition included the miracle of the sun, witnessed by tens of thousands, who reported extraordinary solar phenomena. A less well-known apparition appeared in Kibeho, Rwanda, between 1981 and 1989. Several young people reported visions of Mary warning of a great conflict, which many interpret as a prophecy of the events that occurred in Rwanda in 1994. Another remarkable series of apparitions began in 1981 in Medjugorje, now in Bosnia. 6 young people reported daily visions of Mary, who identified herself as the, quote, Queen of Peace. The messages from Mary focused on peace, conversion, prayer, fasting, and faith. While the Vatican has not given a final judgment on these apparitions, this site has become a significant pilgrimage site, drawing millions seeking spiritual renewal. Throughout history, the Catholic Church has approached reports of Marian apparitions with caution. The Church investigates the authenticity of the events, the content of the messages, and the results they produce among the faithful. Criteria include consistency with Catholic doctrine, moral integrity of the visionaries, and positive spiritual outcomes. While some apparitions receive official recognition, such as Lourdes and Fatima, others remain unapproved or are still under investigation. The messages conveyed during apparitions frequently address contemporary issues facing societies, calling for repentance, peace, and a return to spiritual values. They often occur during times of turmoil or crisis, offering hope and guidance. For instance, the apparitions in Fatima occurred during World War I and predicted further global conflicts, urging prayer for peace. Critics and skeptics of Marian apparitions question their authenticity, attributing them to psychological phenomena or mass hysteria. However, for believers, these events are profound encounters with the divine, reinforcing faith and commitment to religious principles. The Triassic Kraken is a hypothesis proposed by paleontologist Mark McMenamin in 2011. This hypothesis suggests that a giant octopus creature may have existed during the Triassic period, approximately 200 million years ago. This creature is hypothesized to have preyed upon large marine reptiles called Shawnosaurus, massive ichthyosaurs that dominated the oceans during this era. McMenamin's theory is based on a peculiar arrangement of bones found at the Berlin Ichthyosaur State Park in Nevada, where several ichthyosaur skeletons were discovered in an odd, linear pattern. He argues that these bones were purposefully arranged by an intelligent cephalopod in a behavior similar to modern octopuses, which are known to collect and manipulate bones and shells near their dens. The vertebral discs of the Shawnosaurus were found in geometric arrangements, which McMenamin interprets as deliberate. McMenamin also hypothesized that this ancient cephalopod may have killed these large creatures by drowning them or breaking their necks with its arms. He cited evidence of broken ribs and twisted vertebrae on the fossil remains as indicators of violent predatory behavior. The idea of a Triassic kraken has drawn considerable skepticism from the scientific community, to say the least. Many paleontologists have suggested that the unusual bone arrangements could be explained by natural processes. These researchers propose that the bones may have fallen into their positions due to the Shawnosaurus decaying and collapsing after death or being moved by underwater currents. Further, according to skeptics, octopuses, while intelligent and capable of complex behaviors, have never been observed to create the kind of arrangements that McMenamin suggests. Critics point out that modern octopuses have disorganized piles of shells and bones near their dens rather than neatly arranged patterns. This, along with the lack of direct fossil evidence for such a large cephalopod, raises doubts about the plausibility of the Triassic kraken hypothesis. The Beast of Karoo is a cryptid said to roam the semi-arid region of South Africa known as the Karoo. First reported in 1946, this elusive creature was described by various motorists traveling near Loxton as a reptilian beast, measuring roughly 10 feet in length, with a large, powerful tail. The creature's appearance sparked theories, with some suggesting it may be a surviving prehistoric reptile, possibly a giant monitor lizard, due to its size and lizard-like form. The region, known for its wealth of ancient fossils, was home to many prehistoric species, including the therapsids, mammal-like reptiles that existed millions of years ago. Consequently, some early reports even speculated that the Beast of Karoo might be a remnant of these ancient creatures. However, cryptozoologists believe it could more plausibly be a modern but unusually large species of lizard. Some cryptozoologists speculate that the Karoo could house such a creature as it's an expansive landscape largely untouched by humans. Though largely arid, it is home to a variety of animals that have adapted to its harsh conditions. Despite its reputation for being sparse and barren, the Karoo's desolate environment may be an ideal hiding place for undiscovered creatures, given that the area has a low population density. Notably, the creature does not appear to have been reported after 1946, which skeptics claim increases the likelihood that the creature is fictional. The Star Wars franchise is no stranger to the Mandela effect, and one of the more fascinating examples is the so-called C-3PO silver leg phenomenon. This revolves around a significant number of fans misremembering the iconic droid as being entirely gold in the original Star Wars trilogy. The Mandela effect enters when they realize that he had one silver leg throughout much of the series. Introduced in Star Wars A New Hope in 1977, he has always been a prominent character and fan favorite throughout the franchise. Yet, a considerable portion of viewers, even those who have seen the films multiple times, have expressed surprise upon discovering that his right leg, from below the knee, is silver. This detail, though subtle, has led to widespread confusion, particularly because many insist that C3PO was entirely gold when they first watched the films. Despite this widespread misconception, C3PO's silver leg was part of his design from the very first film. In interviews, actor Anthony Daniels, who played C3PO, explained that the silver leg was indeed part of the character's costume. Daniels speculated that the reason it often went unnoticed was likely due to lighting and reflections on set. The sandy landscapes of Tatooine, for example, reflected the gold of the desert onto his leg, making the silver seem less prominent on screen. In some shots, the silver leg blended with the rest of his costume, further obscuring the contrast. Some have speculated that special edition re-releases of the original trilogy and modern viewing platforms with high-definition capabilities play a role in this Mandela effect. Under this theory, these versions make the silver leg more noticeable than when the films were first released. Nevertheless, fans remain adamant about their original recollection of the all-gold C-3PO, prompting ongoing debates about the reliability of memory. Many have pointed out that the action figures and merchandise from the original Star Wars releases often depicted him as entirely gold, further feeding this memory inconsistency. This detail may have contributed to the cementing of an all-gold image in the minds of many viewers. The death of Patrick McNeil, a 21-year-old Fordham University student in 1997, remains a topic of interest, particularly due to the association with the smiley face theory. McNeil disappeared after a night out drinking with friends in Manhattan. His body was found 2 months later, floating in the East River near a Brooklyn pier, 12 miles from where he was last seen. The New York Medical Examiner ruled his death an accidental drowning, with no signs of foul play, citing his high blood alcohol content. However, this conclusion has been questioned by investigators, McNeil's family, and the public, particularly due to the involvement of 2 former NYPD detectives. As discussed earlier, detectives Kevin Gannon and Anthony Duarte became convinced that McNeil was not the victim of an accident, but a victim of the smiley face killer. Gannon and Duarte were particularly suspicious of McNeil's case due to the condition of his body when found. They observed that despite being in the water for nearly 2 months, the state of decomposition was inconsistent with someone who had been submerged for that long. This led them to believe that McNeil's body had been kept on land and only placed in the river shortly before it was found. Furthermore, there were unexplained physical markings on McNeil's body, including possible ligature marks, which suggested he might have been restrained for a period of time. These clues further fueled the detectives' belief that McNeil had been abducted and held for some period of time before being slain. The official theory in Patrick McNeil's case is that his death was an accidental drowning. According to this theory, it's believed that McNeil, disoriented from alcohol, accidentally fell into the East River. According to the official version of events, the autopsy showed no signs of trauma or struggle, contrary to the belief of the detectives. The Jinmenju is a mysterious entity from Japanese and Chinese folklore. Often referred to as the human-faced tree, it is categorized among the yokai in Japan. The Jinmenju is most famous for bearing fruit that resembles human heads, which are often depicted as smiling or laughing silently. Although they cannot speak, their expressions are eerie, and the fruit reportedly falls from the tree when it laughs too much. The tree is typically found in remote mountain valleys, according to Japanese legend. The Jinmenju first appeared in Japanese literature during the Edo period, particularly in Toriyama Sekien's famous collection of illustrations depicting various yokai. In this book, it is portrayed as a relatively harmless creature, sometimes even bringing a sense of prosperity or happiness to those who encounter it. Its unique characteristics, human-faced fruits hanging from its branches, offer a striking image that has fascinated and unsettled people for centuries. Chinese folklore also features a similar entity called the Renmian Shu, which has its own set of traits and associations. While still a tree with human-faced fruits, the Chinese version includes a more ominous twist. The fruits, according to Chinese legends, are the faces of deceased people, and consuming them brings a curse of eternal silence. This version introduces a darker undertone, contrasting with the slightly sillier tone of the Japanese portrayal. The origins of the Jinmenju are debated, with some speculating that its roots may extend beyond East Asia. Some researchers believe it shares similarities with ancient myths from other regions, particularly the Middle East and Africa. The story of a tree bearing human-like fruit also appears in legends from Arabia, with some tracing its origins to the land of Zanj in present-day Mozambique. These connections suggest a possible transmission of mythological elements across vast geographical distances, likely through trade networks. The Jinmenju continues to hold a place in popular culture, where it most notably serves as the basis for Executor, a rather odd first-generation Pokemon. Willow the calico cat disappeared from her home in Boulder, Colorado in 2006. In a twist of fate that left both her owners and the public mystified, she reappeared 5 years later, over 1,600 miles away, on the bustling streets of Manhattan. Willow went missing while her family, the Squires, were renovating their home. With doors and windows left open, it was assumed that the frightened cat simply wandered off into the nearby woods. Despite their efforts to find her, including putting up flyers and searching the area, Willow had seemingly vanished. After months of no sightings, the family feared they would never see their beloved pet again. Adding to this fear, Willow was an indoor cat and unfamiliar with the rough and tumble lifestyle outdoor cats are so accustomed to. In a turn of events that no one could have predicted, Willow was spotted by a passerby on the streets of New York City in 2011. Fortunately, she had been microchipped before her disappearance, allowing animal control to trace her back to the Squires. The discovery of Willow so far from her original home sparked widespread speculation and intrigue. While no definitive explanation has been given for how she made her way across the country, there are several theories. One possible explanation is that Willow may have been taken in by someone traveling from Colorado to New York, possibly unaware that she had an owner looking for her. This theory gained some traction when a New York City resident claimed to have temporarily housed a cat resembling Willow after finding her as a stray in Colorado. The individual suggested that the cat had traveled back with them to New York, but was eventually taken to a shelter when they could no longer care for her. While this theory offers a plausible explanation, the details remain murky, and there is no solid proof linking this specific account to Willow. The importance of Willow's microchip cannot be overstated. Without it, Willow's journey would have certainly remained an unsolved mystery, as she would have likely been considered a stray in New York City. When Willow was finally reunited with her family, she was healthy, although slightly thinner than when she had left. The mystery of how Willow survived remains unsolved, and at this point likely will remain that way. The Mycenaean civilization, flourishing between approximately 1600 BC and 1100 BC, represents the first advanced Greek society on the mainland. This society, which forms much of the basis for Western culture through its influence on classical Greece, declined and fell in the 12th century BC for reasons that are still a mystery. The origins of the Mycenaean civilization are rooted in the migration of Indo-European peoples into the Greek peninsula around 2000 BC. These early Greeks assimilated with existing Neolithic populations, leading to the emergence of the Helladic culture. By 1600 BC, distinctive features of the Mycenaean civilization began to crystallize, marked by advances in metallurgy, pottery, and the establishment of complex socio-political structures. The rise of the Mycenaeans coincided with increased contact with the Minoan civilization of Crete. Through trade and possibly conquest, the Mycenaeans absorbed aspects of Minoan culture, including art and religious practices. However, they developed their own identity, characterized by a warrior ethos and a focus on fortifications, military prowess, and individual heroism in battle. At the heart of Mycenaean society were the fortified palace complexes at sites like Mycenae, Pylos, Tiryns, and Thebes. These palatial centers served as administrative and economic hubs, overseeing agriculture, trade, and production. The palaces featured megarons, large central halls with a hearth, that served as throne rooms and places for ceremonial functions. Art and architecture flourished under the Mycenaeans, contrary to what one might expect from a warrior society. They were skilled in various crafts, including pottery, fresco painting, and metalwork. The famous Mask of Agamemnon, a gold funerary mask discovered by Heinrich Schliemann at Mycenae, exemplifies their expertise in goldsmithing. Mycenaean pottery, characterized by elegant shapes and decorative motifs, was widely traded and highly desired throughout the Mediterranean. The development of Linear B script was a significant achievement. Deciphered in 1952 by Michael Ventris, Linear B is an early form of Greek used primarily for administrative purposes. The tablets reveal an early bureaucratic society with detailed records of goods, personnel, and religious offerings, underscoring the complexity of Mycenaean administrative systems. Social structure was extremely hierarchical, as one may expect from a warrior society. The king, known in Mycenaean Greek as the Wanax, held supreme authority both politically and religiously. The king is thought to have appointed a supreme military commander as well as regional governors. Below the elite were free citizens, artisans, farmers, and laborers, with bonded laborers being at the bottom of the societal pyramid. Agriculture formed the economic backbone of the society, with crops like wheat, barley, olives, and grapes cultivated extensively. Notably, craftsmanship, as discussed, was highly developed, and luxury goods were produced. For instance, the Mycenaean Greeks are noted to have manufactured not only combat-ready weaponry, but fine ornamental weaponry as well, indicating a wealthy society with a taste for opulence. Mycenaean pottery has been found in Egypt, Italy, Anatolia, and the Levant, evidencing extensive maritime trade. Religion was integral to Mycenaean life and will be quite familiar to anyone who has a passing familiarity with Hellenic religion generally. The pantheon included deities that would later feature prominently in classical Greek mythology. Names like Zeus, Poseidon, and Dionysus appear in Linear B tablets, suggesting continuity in religious beliefs. Religious practices involved offerings and sacrifices to the gods, with shrines and sanctuaries located within palaces and the surrounding countryside. Notably, the role of the priesthood is not entirely clear in this society, but given the significant amount of religious art produced, scholars theorize they likely held significant influence. As discussed, the Mycenaeans are characterized by their militaristic nature and their focus on fort building. Citadels were protected by massive walls constructed with large, unworked stones, known as Cyclopean masonry, due to the later Greeks' belief that only giants could have moved them. Also, as a quick aside, this is my new favorite theory for anomalous ancient structures. A Cyclops built it. You heard it here first. A Cyclops built Stonehenge and the pyramids. Military equipment was sophisticated and included bronze swords, spears, shields, and armor. Chariots played a role in warfare, as depicted in frescoes and mentioned in Linear B tablets. Warfare and conquest is thought to have been instrumental in expanding Mycenaean influence. Some scholars suggest involvement in conflicts like the legendary Trojan War, immortalized by Homer, although the historical accuracy of these accounts remains hotly contested. Around 1200 BC, the Mycenaean civilization began to decline. Palaces were destroyed or abandoned, trade networks collapsed, and writing largely ceased. Several theories attempt to explain this downfall, which is now well known as the Late Bronze Age collapse. Some suggestions by scholars include one or more of the following reasons, including natural disasters, invasions by the Sea Peoples, and civil strife. Most scholars now agree that any one precise cause is not likely the case, and it's likely that this was caused by a combination of factors. The result was a period known as the Greek Dark Ages, lasting until around 800 BC, during which population declined, and many aspects of Mycenaean culture were lost. Despite the collapse, the Mycenaeans left a lasting legacy that strongly impacted subsequent Greek culture and Western culture generally. Also, if you're into historical content, feel free to check out my alternative channel, Lazy Chill History. I've included a link to the channel in the description of this video, but you can also find it on my channel page. If you like this video, please do me a huge favor and click like and subscribe, and also click the share button and send it to anyone who you think may enjoy it. Shout out to my patrons Iced Mocha, Kurt the Squirt, Monoxide Wendigo, Jeffer Metcalf, Z Volts, Courtney Hammett, Out of Gray's Mind, Cap, Dionysus, Zach Steele, Franz Tech, Unknown Delusions, Faye, Jack Russell, Boomslang, Spookiest Becky, Vespertine, Metanova, Will Roan, Crab Nebula, and Blasphemous.